fighting games is a genre that is kinda hard to get into. It demands a lot of work and perseverance to fully master moves, special attacks and combos for just one character in any fighting game. Those type of games were insanely popular in arcades, alongside other genres like platformers and beat 'em up. And as someone who grew up in the 90s, the golden age of the fighting games, I consider myself very lucky as I witnessed the humble beginning and the rise of some of the most legendary titles in video games, while others have fallen into total forgetfulness. Without further ado, here's my personal top 10 fighting games of all time. In number 10 we have a forgotten gem called Bloody Roar. Like its prequels, this fourth episode is a fast-paced fighting game that is unfortunately often overshadowed by more popular games like Tekken or Soul Calibur. The originality of the Bloody Roar series lies in the possibility of transforming into an animal as soon as the corresponding gauge begins to fill. Each fighter has his own transformation. Yugo can be the wolf, Gado a lion, and Jenny can take the shape of a bat. Even though the controls are pretty simplistic and intuitive, the fact that you constantly have to switch between the human and the animal form is enough to give the fights a strategic dimension, which keeps the game always exciting and never boring. Real Bout Special is the 6th installment of the famous SNK saga and takes advantage of a new graphic engine which offers unforgettable dream matches. In addition to the possibility of destroying some decor elements which stunt the opponent for few seconds, you can fight on 2 separate planes, making the combats more dynamic. With its 20 iconic characters, Real Bout Special immediately imposes its class and its punch. Each session is a real threat and lassitude is never felt. Probably the most unknown game on this list, Kabuki Clash is a fighting game based on the Far East of Eden universe and proposes to embody 8 fighters plus 4 hidden bosses. The characters are very colorful and each one of them has its own theme and stage. During the combats, there are these birds who throw objects like armors, banana peels or poisons, which sometimes can completely reverse the situation of the fight. As you may already notice, the game is heavily inspired from Japanese mythology and shares many similarities with the manga Naruto, like a strong female fighter called Tsunade, a ninja who can summon giant frogs, and a dark-haired character called Orochimaru. This is a very charming game and I highly recommend it if you never played it. Tekken 5 is not the episode that revolutionized the series, but it's the game that I personally played the most. Mastering each fighter's techniques will take you many hours of gaming. That said, the franchise has always been a model of accessibility, and this installment does not deviate from this rule. The graphics are very beautiful, whether it's the gorgeous environments or the multiple costumes available for each character. The game offers a substantial content with many modes and options. My only complaint, however, is the inconsistent difficulty. Sometimes it's too easy and others it's just infuriating. But still, Tekken 5 is definitely one of the best 3D fighting games ever made.
You win.
With Samurai Shodown, SNK had the brilliant idea to stand out from its competitors by integrating a concept that was still uncommon in fighting games back then. The developer team chooses to equip each fighter with a melee weapon like a sword, a saber or a lance, and set the game in 18th century's feudal Japan. Samurai Shodown 2 surpassed its predecessor by refining the gameplay and adding even more characters. The series emphasizes the timing of the attacks instead of long complicated combos. There is a power meter allowing the use of a super attack when it's full, which deals a considerable amount of damage to the opponent and most importantly breaks his weapon, leaving him vulnerable for few seconds. I have a lot of fun memories with this game, definitely a must play. Created by the fans and for the fans of the fighting genre, this stunning game was known for its roster composed only by female characters. While it's true that the second Encore edition has introduced some masculine figures, it's also the best way to experience the game. Skullgirls is so much fun, the gameplay is fluid and very addictive, the graphics are very pretty, the soundtrack is beautiful and sticks perfectly to the game, and each character, even if they are not that many, is unique with a very specific gameplay and an insane look.
Good job, kid! I make this look easy. Round 1. Fight!
What kind of list of fighting games wouldn't have Mortal Kombat in it? I mean, it's the series that contributed to the founding of the ESRB ratings due to its brutal actions and bloody fatalities. Each one of us has its own favorite entry. Mine is the 2011's reboot, also known as Mortal Kombat 9. Far more fluid and technical than its predecessors, the controls are also more accessible. The power gauge adds an interesting tactical dimensions to the battles, and the possibility of playing 2 against 2 is a welcome addition. I would have put Mortal Kombat X in this list if it wasn't for some annoying issues with it. Things like the absence of Smoke, Cabal and Noob Saibot, which are my favorite characters, a shorter story mode and fewer stages compared to the previous episode. But the most unforgivable sin of Mortal Kombat X is making it extremely difficult to unlock everything in the crypt for the sake to buy this possibility with real money. All these problems make Mortal Kombat 9 a superior game and the rightful owner of the 4th spot of this list.
Jade wins. They ballot.
The fighting game that laid the foundations of the whole genre and imposed itself as one of the most influential games of all time. Street Fighter II shined by its rich and revolutionary gameplay for the time. Even today, the graphics remain pleasant for the eye, the soundtrack is excellent, and each theme is just amazing. Super Street Fighter II Turbo is the definitive edition which refined and balanced the existing character roster from the previous versions, and introduced 4 new ones. It's a classic game that never gets old and is always a blast to play. One of the last games on the PlayStation 2 is also one of the best 2D fighting games of all time for many fans. This entry of the excellent Guilty Gear series offers us the best of this genre with a top-notch production. Arc System Works perfectly masters this subject when it comes to offering an astonishing 2D game. The gameplay is fast and very technical, while remaining intuitive enough to not discourage the newcomers. The characters are well balanced and each one of them has a memorable design and personality. But why did I pick this installment over the latest one, you may ask? Simply because I haven't played it yet. Yeah, I know, it's a shame, but for now Guilty Gear XX Accent Core Plus, phew, is my favorite in the series and my number 2 entry on this list. And now for my top 10 fighting game of all time. The King of Fighters 98 is the game where I spent the majority of my teenage years. What to say about this game? Charming 2D sprites? Check. Tight and precise gameplay? Check. Huge roster? Check. Memorable soundtrack? Also check. For those who don't know what this series is about, it's a crossover of different SNK games. KOF 98 is itself a crossover of the previous installments, and because of its uncanonical nature, it featured all the characters who appeared in the previous games, regardless of whether the character was killed off in the series' ongoing storyline. It's kinda hard for the beginner to get into this game. The combos are not easy to pull off, and the timing is super precise and unforgiving. A lot of training is required, but it's totally worth it. The King of Fighters 98 is a masterpiece that every fighting game fan should own. It was very hard for me to limit all the fighting games I like to just 10 entries. Why don't you tell me your favorite one in the comment section, and consider subscribing to the channel if you like this video. Thanks for watching.